What's going on YouTube? Ryan and Alex back from Dopamon once again.
Yeah, the Seattle expansion draft is on at Wednesday, July 21st, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and about 24 hours ago, all the protection list for all 30 eligible teams went public. That's what everybody's been talking about since we can all make our own mock drafts now, and that's why we're here. What do you say, Ryan? We can get we've been talking about it. We can get right into it.
Yeah,
Uh,
so
get
Alex and I
big
just
screen on.
Alex and I we sat down. We created one team together. This is just fun. I mean, the expansion draft is going to be such a crapshoot. Like the biggest like half of these half of these guys are going to be either traded or there's going to be back deals made. It's going to be all over the place. So this is just our kind of bare bones expansion draft for Seattle. As you can see on the screen, Anaheim Ducks were first for us, and we chose Hayden
Mhm.
Fleury as our first pick here. Uh, Other guys we were talking about. Who else were we talking about? We are talking about Volkov, Denton. I
Volkov,
thought
yeah,
about
that
Denton
was
Heinen, Sonny
yeah.
Milano, but ultimately I think Hayden Fleury is the best option here.
Yeah, Milano didn't have a great year. That was it for me.
Yeah,
When he came in, it was such like this guy could be one of those small guys with, crazy upside, but he just didn't really have it. And Volkov did, but in the end, Hayden Fleury.
yeah, I agree. Arizona, we both chose right away. We both said Tyler Pitlick.
Hmm.
Um, Another guy that could possibly go here, Christian Fisher, Tyler Steenbergen even. But we both like Pitlick. We both like
Yeah,
what he brings.
immediately.
Christian Fisher is a guy looking at. He's an RFA, but he's signed next year. He's younger than Pitlick, so it depends what Seattle wants to do. But we had Tyler Pitlick here.
Hmm.
I don't think they're going to take a defenseman at all. I think they're going to take a
Nope,
forward from Arizona.
I agree.
Moving on, Boston Bruins. We both this might have been the easiest pick.
Immediately, yeah, that was pretty easy for both of us just to jump on Jeremy Lauzon.
Yep, great defender from Boston, easily a top four defenseman on the Seattle team. Uh, it was between him and Connor Clifton, but I like what Lauzon brings over Clifton for me. Other guys, you can get into Andre Kasha, Nick Ritchie, or RFAs. We didn't pick a lot of. I don't think we picked any UFAs.
Nope,
Uh,
that was one thing we strayed away from.
Yeah, we just straight up didn't pick any unrestricted free agents because it's such a, sure you get a couple extra days to negotiate, but most of these guys, a lot of the bigger names, if you really want a UFA, they're probably going to go to free agency at that point, right? So it's only a few days afterwards. You risk it for the biscuit, just to get discussions going with UFAs. Like we thought about taking spoilers. We thought about taking Alex Ovechkin. We didn't. Um, just if he's gonna go to free agency to talk to teams, he's gonna go. If not, he's gonna sign in Washington. So like, why waste a pick? Is what our process was anyway. Anyway, moving on.
And we think we picked a pretty good guy out of Washington, but
Yeah, we
we'll get
both
there.
like our guy out of Washington. Buffalo. There's no one in Buffalo. Who
Yeah,
cares
we
what
both
Buffalo has?
immediately jumped on William Borgen. It could have been Cody Eakin, but there's a few really good third line kind of centers that it was easier to pass on him for a guy like Borgen who might have some upside in the future.
Yeah, we Buffalo doesn't have anybody really. Cody Eakin was picked in the Vegas expansion draft,
Right, yeah.
so been funny to pick him again. But yeah, we went with William Borgen. It's a minor league guy. There's a lot of defensemen taken. You can see at the top is 11. We have 11 defensemen taken. He'll be in the minors for the Seattle team. Anyway, Calgary. We both had Oliver Shillington. I originally had Mark Giordano because I thought that'd be really cool. It's like a face your franchise thing. We decided against it. Oliver Shillington was a choice. Um, Other guys, Josh Levo, he's a UFA. Like I said, we didn't take any of those. Did we both have Shillington? We both had Shillington,
Yep.
right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we both did immediately. I can't believe he wasn't protected. I think that there's a huge upside in his game. Didn't really play a lot of games, but we're here now, and he's available, I think he's going to have a really big bounce back here.
Hmm. The Carolina Hurricanes was an interesting one. A
Hmm.
lot of really good options here. Better teams, there's more options, obviously. Um, we both went with Jake Bean. We feel like he's, well,
Yeah.
you can say
I immediately jumped on him, and then I kind of doubled back on maybe Nino Niederreiter, but the cap hit was just too much for me. There's certain guys you're willing to kind of have that cap hit for. Like, not that he's necessarily being overpaid by, but like for Jake Bean, I think there's a lot of upside because he's been forced down Carolina's D list just because Carolina has good D. And he'd be a great pick. Yeah,
yeah,
what else is there? Yeah.
I've loved Jake Bean ever since he was a junior. Um, he's, yeah, like you said, he's gotten, hasn't gotten quite the opportunity to shine in Carolina, so hopefully he does his thing in Seattle. The Chicago Blackhawks. We decided on Adam Gaudette.
Yep.
Uh, he was traded from Vancouver last year, right? Decent center, still young. Uh, Ryan Carpenter is another guy that was part of the original Vegas expansion. That's
Yeah, that's
funny
another
that
one.
he's here too. I think Calvin DeHaan could be an option, but I think his cap hit's a little too big, and he's not quite the same kind of player he was. Nikita Zadorov would be a funny option too, but Adam Gaudette I think is a pretty good call here.
Hmm.
Moving on to Chicago, the Colorado
Oh,
Avalanche. I almost
yeah.
said the Chicago Avalanche. That would have been wild. Um, we had Jonas Donskoy.
Yeah, we
This,
both jumped on him pretty quick, I think. I agreed.
yeah, we both jumped
That's
on
a easy
Donskoy pretty quick
choice.
here. What other options could have been here, Alex?
I mean, if you want to try and negotiate with Landeskog, that's one of those
Yeah,
the UFA options. But I believe that Seattle can now negotiate with any of the guys on this list. But why would you only negotiate with one GM? You know that offer is going to be on the table if you wait a week, wait until free agency. So I can't see anybody, if they pick a guy who's a UFA come this season, this off season's free agency, them actually signing any. So um, is Donskoy is the big name. Comfer maybe.
yeah. I've seen a lot
Uh,
of guys take JT Compher. It's kind of a toss-up, really, between him and Donskoy. Contract and skill-wise, they're both right wingers. Yeah, I think Donskoy is the answer.
Likewise.
CBJ, CB Columbus exposed Max Domi. I think you got to take him. He's a UFA at the end of the year, so if it doesn't work, you know, it doesn't work. But
Hmm.
he has the ability to be a solid top, first or second line center for this team.
Hmm.
So why not take a flyer on him, right?
And a change of scenery could be really good for him. That's, a lot of players. It's just, the coaching, the system, the team, or, guys around you, the role you play, and maybe he finds a spot in Seattle, and I think he will. I think he, there's a potential to play with some really good guys and have a, like Vegas did in their first year, kind of have this underdoggy feeling of like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we're all like ditched by our team, given up on, like, Domi's given up on here, and maybe that'll help motivate him.
Dallas Stars. Dallas Stars. There wasn't a whole lot of options. We went with Blake Como. We talked about who did we talk about? We talked about Adam Shkirkin and Benjamin
Hmm.
Gleason, right? It's kind of younger
Yeah,
guys,
Ben Gleason.
but
The yeah.
yeah, Como's a guy you can, if it doesn't work, he's a guy that teams will want as like depth, depth on the wing. He's older, obviously he's 35. He's not what he was, but I think that's a solid pick from Dallas. The other,
Hmm.
we'll get into goaltenders later,
Especially if you
but
Dallas like Bertan. Oops, sorry.
I was saying we'll get into goaltenders later. But Ben Bishop is another serious option here. He waived his no movement clause.
Hmm.
Sorry, are you saying?
Oh, maybe Como with his cap his salary retained at 50%, he'd be a really enticing option to teams at the trade deadline,
Yeah, exactly.
even if they're in a crab crunch.
Absolutely. Detroit went with Troy Stetcher. Um, Christian Hughes is here too. Vlad Nemestikov would be a fun thing. Evgeny Svechnikov, if you feel like there's still some potential left in Svechnikov's game. That's the other Svechnikov, not the one in Carolina.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
for anyone who might have
That
gone,
would have
wait a
been an
second.
easy pick.
For anyone who might have gone, well, you haven't picked different Svechnikov.
And I do think there's something there. I don't know. It might be too much of a project at his age to to pick him over a guy like Stetcher who could help you win now. So, it's an easy pick for Stetcher in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Edmonton, we had Dominic Cahoon. Edmonton's another weird one. Um, Other guys, we could have picked Alex. What? Like maybe we were talking about maybe Jujar Kara.
Yeah, he suffered two concussions in a row last year and did not look good, and I am not sure about. I wouldn't have him on my, for expansion. I'd be like, let him play a full season healthy before I pick him up on my roster personally. I thought maybe Tyler Benson.
Yeah, maybe Tyler Benson.
Yeah, as far as D, there's no point in Clefbaum. You don't know,
Yeah,
there's a little bit on, yeah,
Clefbaum is probably going to be hurt next season. So and Chris Russell
yeah,
is not worth the $4 million. So
yeah, but he's a little bit too old, and I don't know how effective he can be if you're trying to win now. There's so Kahuna's like the easy
yeah,
option in my opinion.
yeah. This is an opportunity if Seattle, if Ron Francis doesn't like Cahoon or any of the options, this is a team they could take the opportunity to get a jump on a free agent for and take Larson or Tyson Berry if they like either one of those two guys. Risk it for this. If not, you're just missing on Dominic Cahoon if you don't think
Hmm.
he can do anything for your franchise. So maybe you take a free agent here, but Dominic Cahoon is what we went for. The Florida Panthers, a lot of fun options with this team. I liked a lot of guys here. We went with Marcus Nudavara. Frank Vetrano is another guy. Um, really high
Uh,
skilled in
Noel
Florida.
Akari.
Noel Achari, yeah. Ryan Lomberg, even if you want to like dig down deep. um, Radko Dudas, if you want a little bit of snarl on it. There's some good
I
options
know you
here
don't
anyway.
like him, right? You're not a
No,
fan
I
of
don't.
Redcoat. No.
No, I
And
think he's a little
Udavara is
over.
an easier choice. Is cheat, just as he gets paid just as much, but he's wildly more effective. Like just clearly,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, we needed more defensemen, so we went with Marcus
Hmm.
Nudavara here.
And it
Uh,
really feels, yeah, that number. It was really between him and Vetrano though, because Vetrano, not to like pass on him too easily. He did score a lot.
yeah, but he could be a guy with top 6 minutes in Seattle could really do it. Frank Vetrano anyway. Los Angeles, we both immediately went Brendan Lemieux. We know he was hurt last year, but he's coming back. He should be fine to good to go. Cale Clegg, I thought about personally. I don't know if you had anyone else on your radar other than Lemieux.
Oh, maybe I thought Athanasiu, but Lemieux was just a way more dynamic forward and like an impact every shift, on the ice, and yeah,
Yeah,
hard to
he's a
pass
hard
on him.
play against. He's hard to
Hmm.
play against guy. You need guys like that in your lineup, and yeah, it's a good one for us. Minnesota Wild, we went with Capo Kakinen. Uh, to Alex's dismay a little bit. Because not a big fan of Kakinen, but yeah, it was between Kakinen and Susi for us, right, Alex?
Yeah, CC, it was a tough choice. It's not a lot here. Maybe if you believed in Bukestad, I don't. Maybe Mason Shaw, if you believe in him, I not that I don't, but I just don't see there's like I just don't see it there. Capo Kakinen, he's all right. I don't see like like an amazing starter out of him. I see more of a backup goalie. For his sake, I'd like to be wrong, but
Yeah, I think
but he is the right choice. He is
just the
the right choice.
potential with Kakinen is you have to, right?
Hmm.
This was the big one. The Montreal Canadiens. There's a lot of differing opinions on this. We just went, screw it. We're taking Carey Price. Why not, right? Immediately the face of your franchise. You eat the cap and the big signing bonus that he has coming. It's Carey Price.
hmm The
It,
best goaltender in the world
yeah.
gets the most expensive contract in the world. Like, come on. It makes sense that, he costs that much. It's not being overpaid if he earns it.
Yep. Like, there's a reason why Tampa and Montreal are in the final. They have two of the best, Vasilevsky and Price are two of the best goalies on the planet. Say whatever you want about Price's age or his regular season performances last couple years. He turns it on when it matters. So we went with Carey Price here. I don't know if even to me, there's no other option. But other options, Paul Byron, Jonathan Drouin, depending on what his situation is. But
hmm
Brett Kulak maybe. But Carey Price was the play for sure for me. The Nashville Predators. We had a little debate on where to go here. Ended up with Colton Sissons. It was between Colton Sissons and Matthew Benning. We're trying to figure out our forwards versus defense, right hand, left side, kind of mix.
hmm
But we ended up with Colton Sissons. I like him because he's signed. He's one of the only long-term contracts that we've claimed here. Goes 2026, but at a really decent number at 2.8. So
And he's shown that he can be consistent yearly. That the contract, in 5 years is still gonna look decent at 2.85. That
yeah,
is not gonna, he's likely not to just suddenly drop off and go nowhere, disappear out of nowhere. Even in years when he didn't have, good scoring, he had more depth scoring. Like he was still showing up defensively, and that for a team like Seattle that might be competitive, and I think that's the aim of what we're going for, to put a team that could run for the cup just like Vegas did.
yep,
He could be a guy for the next few years who could have a lot of good playoff runs.
yeah. And we were looking at Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson, but they're
The
too big for
money.
too long. There's you can't with those two guys. They're too big, too long contracts. They're too inconsistent. So Colton Sissons as it was. The New Jersey Devils went with Will Butcher. I was of the mind for a little bit to reunite PK Subban with Carey Price. I think that'd be kind of funny. Um, but ended up going with Will Butcher just because of the cap hit and because, it didn't work in you pointed out, it didn't work in Montreal. So,
Yeah. And I don't
um,
think the media would think it's as funny.
they would think it's funny for a day and
Yeah,
then they'd bash on
for
it.
a day, yeah, and then they think it's hilarious for the wrong reasons. And Will Butcher, he's been kind of hasn't had great seasons since his first, and I think a new team, new chance. He has a long career ahead of him potentially. He can play for another like 10 plus
Hmm.
years, so there's no reason to count him out. And he's on a fairly cheap contract that isn't gonna sting uh come yeah, come the beginning of the season.
Yeah, a decent option here is Andreas Janssen. As a Leaf fan, I still believe in him and his abilities. Given a bigger role, could be something in Seattle, but Will Butcher
Nick
was the play.
Merkley, if you see his potential, but
Yeah, maybe Nick Merkley. Uh, yeah, nah, Will Butcher. Will Butcher was the play.
hmm
New York Islanders were an interesting case. Had an very strange protection list. They protected, Matt Martin and guys like that, leaving Josh Bailey and Jordan Eberle exposed. Very interesting play. We were between Eberle and Bailey. We went with Josh Bailey. Might be a little bit of recency bias there from the playoffs. But either one of these guys, they're signed to nearly identical cap hits for nearly identical lengths. And they're the same age. They're
hmm
both right wingers. Take a pick, right? Um, who else? Andy Green is the only available defenseman. I won't take that guy. Richard Panik is another option if you want a winger for a lot less money. They
Or
just got him.
if you think that there's a hit on Timashov or Dal Cole, probably not. But if
Hmm.
you see something, that might blow up there, their options. But Josh Bailey. he's already a bona fide, winger there. So
hmm New York Rangers. New York Rangers. I really like this guy. I was the one pushing, really, really pushing for him. Is Colin Blackwell. Um, I also thought about Keith Kincaid as a goalie option, but Colin Blackwell had a really, really good year with a Rangers team that missed the playoffs. Um, could be, you need center depth. Blackwell is really, really good center depth for Seattle. Could be a second, even third line center kind of play for them, depending on who they have. Um, Julian Gauthier is another one I've seen a lot of people pick. Um, yeah, it's not a whole lot of options with New York. They had a lot of guys that are just exempt from this. Ottawa, Alex, is your field.
Ottawa, Joey Decord. We both agreed here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few other options. You get if you think you can get a scorer out of Dadonov. He showed in Ottawa, probably not. He didn't have a great season. At times he showed he's kind of lazy defensively when he was supposed to kind of be a little bit better defensively. Chris Tierney's an option. He's a solid third line center who might have a little bit more in him to go up the roster. But other than that, it's probably Joey Decord. He showed he could be a good backup goaltender. Hurt himself. That's a shame, but it happens when you're a goalie, and then you come back and you start winning again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he could be a good backup goaltender for a Seattle team.
Yeah, if you want to go like a minor league contract too, a guy like Vitaly Abramov, Jakapaka, I don't know, something like that maybe. Like Matthew Pekka, even if you want to do that with a UFA. Or you can go full scorched earth and go Price and Matt Murray. This is the most
Yeah,
expensive goaltender tandem in the league. Um, Philadelphia Flyers.
we
Robert.
both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead,
I
go ahead.
jumped on it pretty quick. Yeah,
Yeah.
Robert Hagge.
hmm
That was for me. It was a pretty easy choice. There's just too much money in a Voracek or JVR. I don't think a guy like other forward options like German or stuff. I don't think he has the same like NHL upside. And that's really it. You know.
Yeah, Robert
Uh,
Haig I think is the easy one. I thought Goss Despair would be an interesting choice. Try to if you really have you know faith in him kind of rediscovering his game. The head coach over there is Dave Haxtell, so he knows the Philadelphia Flyers. So if he goes to Ron Francis and goes, hey, I think I can fix Justice Bear and he could be a number one D for us, then maybe they'll take a flyer on him. But Robert Haig I think is a play for us.
the safe pick too.
hmm This was the one Alex and I went back and forth on a little bit.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Hmm. Jason Zucker we ended up with. We kind of bounced between Jason Zucker, Brandon Tanev, and Casey DeSmith a little bit. Um, we're not picking Cody Ceci. That's what we decided on.
That was it's very tough. As much as I want to, pick CC, offer him a $4 million, dollar a year 4-year contract, because that's exactly what I believe he's worth. We had to pick Jason Zucker. I think that when you're building a team that could be competitive, like I know that, they're gonna make deals, some trades, but uh, Zucker's a guy who can be a top end forward. There hasn't been many in this expansion draft. It's hard to find them. Even for Vegas, they didn't really get anybody above like William Karlsson. And I think he's a guy that maybe more than Tanev, you can get somebody like Tanev in the expansion draft if you're trying to fill a role, but it's harder to find someone like Jason Zucker. So I'll take him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
San Jose. San Jose has a couple interesting options too. Went with Dylan Gambrell. Uh, Ryan Donato is an RFA. Is another guy, but we went with Gambrell, being under control for next year, a little younger. Um, Donato's listed as a left wing here, but he can play center. But Dylan Gambrell was our play. St. Louis.
And
I
this
think,
one we went back and forth on too.
yeah, this was probably the one we spent most time on trying to decide what we're gonna do. Uh, you, you, you go ahead.
Yeah, because it's for me it's Tarasenko.
Hmm.
I think that what he brings offensively, obviously with the shoulder surgeries, he doesn't have the shooting skill he once did. Think if you watch him play when he did come back, you see he gets a lot of chances, to take his shot in his zone in his the circle there in his territory, and he's just missing. He can't pick that top corner. He isn't hitting the net, and despite that, he is getting these chances. He is still driving towards the net and creating, stuff out of nothing. He's just missing the net, and I think there's still something there that you can't take that offensive sense away from him, and there you do it's more than anywhere else in the expansion draft. He might have like the most offensive sense in that regard, and to pass up on that is kind of a would be a shame in my opinion. Just for someone like Dunn who might be more easily replaceable. I do really like Vince Dunn, but you can pick for that role. You can get that guy in the free agency a lot easier. It's harder to find someone with Tarasenko's goal scoring prowess.
Yeah, I think if you can make it work with Tarasenko, that's has the most upside. We were between Tarasenko and Vince Dunn. Um, those are really the only two options I can see here.
Yeah.
It's interesting if you wanna, if you want to save a little cap, you do that, and all of a sudden it goes down. But Vladimir Tarasenko is the play. $7.5 million. He's your best forward. All of a sudden, you have a really good forward, you have a really good goalie, you have a decent defensive core. You know, we're continuing down this list, but it's becoming a really nice team.
Mhm.
Tampa Bay. This was one we bounced around
Yeah,
on.
this is
For me, Tampa Bay. Okay, but before anyone says anything about who we picked, let me explain. Tampa Bay is we can't. No one can predict what Tampa Bay is going to do because they have to shed so much cap, and they're most likely going to sign it, have some sort of deal with Seattle to take a specific guy. So why make it easier for them and take a guy like Gord or Killorn or one of those guys? Instead, take a guy with some really good upside and defense and Cal Foot, because why make it easier for Tampa? They're the ones that put themselves into cap trouble. Get the most value as you can out of it. And I was talking the most likely scenario is they had in my head anyway, is Tampa Bay gives them a package of players, prospects, and picks to take a guy like Tyler Johnson. So they're gonna get Johnson and then potentially Foot and picks or something anyway. So we just went with Foot for the sake of this draft. But any one of these forwards, minus Tyler Johnson, if you told me, hey, why didn't you take Killorn? Why didn't you take Gord? I'd be like, I don't know. I wanted Foot. Toronto Maple Leafs.
on to Toronto. Up to you, Brian.
Toronto Maple Leafs is Alex Kerfoot. I think the Jared McCann trade was kind of Alex Kerfoot protection against the draft. If they go ahead and take McCann, then sure, we kept Kerfoot, right? That was the side deal that we would have had to make with Seattle. We gave them Hollander in a second or a seventh or whatever it
Mhm.
was. Oh well. Other guys, maybe Travis Dermott is another guy people keep talking about. They ended up protecting Justin Hall, um, but I think Seattle will be set on Kerfoot. I think that's the best pick for them. He's a centerman. He's a good centerman with good two-way ability as well, with a decent cap hit for only a few more years. So, um, yeah, Kerfoot's the easy answer. I hate to see him go, but he's the guy, unfortunately.
And he showed in the playoffs with Tavares dropping out that he can be a second line center,
Yeah.
and he can really take a lot of minutes and really shine when like the going gets tough. That Jared McCann hasn't exactly he hasn't shown the same way. Like I feel like Kerfoot's reached just a higher level, and for like Seattle kind of has to take that.
Vancouver. Vancouver, we had Cole Lind. It was between Cole Lind and Matthew Highmore for me. Um, You're not going to do any favors and get take Louis Eriksson off their hands, or Jay Beagle or Roussel, or maybe Madison Bowie's a guy. But we went with Cole Lind. We like his potential. He's only 22 years old. Yeah.
Hmm.
And with Seattle's going to pick all these guys who are NHL players and guys who can play now. You got to pick a couple guys who are down the road a few more years. You got to build your team a little appropriately. And Cole Lind is a good answer to that.
I thought maybe Jace Howerluck, but Cole Lind has a lot more potential. Hard to pass up on him. He might be like, the best 22-year-old in the entire expansion draft here.
So. Yeah, very young. Surprising that he even meets the expectations for the draft, to be honest. But is not exempt. Washington Capitals. We were between Brendan Dillon, Nick Jensen. Went with Nick Jensen here. Again, toss up. We went with him because he's a right-handed defenseman, a little bit more valuable. He's a shorter cap hit and a shorter term than Brendan Dillon. If you want to argue with me that it should be Justin Schultz, sure, right? I think either way, I think you take a defenseman here. Another guy is Vitek Vanacek, as if you want another goalie option. We only have 3 goalies. You can have as many goalies. Seattle can pick as many goalies as they want. But Vanacek, Phoenix Copley, even. But yeah, we went with Nick Jensen here, Alex, right?
Mm-hmm. And that leaves us with our last team, Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
And we both agreed pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, we both went with Mason Appleton. Yeah, and there's not a they have a pretty good team, so there's not a whole lot of really good options here. People signed under contract. Dylan DeMelo, but he's signed for too long, really for me to be interested in him. Dominic Toronado was a guy I thought of as a former Leaf draft pick. But yeah, Mason, I like
Niku.
Sammy Niku. Yeah.
But just not enough there. And
Tucker
Mason
Poolman.
Appleton, I think he even showed first round. Score in the first round. I don't know. I like him. He's the best on this list.
Yep,
Clearly,
he's controllable. He's cheap. He's a good player. And that's it. That's the draft. We'll scroll over to here. This is our full forward group for the next few years. We're gonna have to sign all these RFAs and stuff like that. Money will come out of here. And again, this is just a fun thing, right? End up with a projected cap hit of $66 million, so they have space to do what they want. If they want to sign some of these guys, a lot of these RFAs will sign for cheap, like Borgen and Shillington and Cole Lind and guys like that will sign for cheaper contracts. There's no real big RFAs or UFAs you got to sign. The only big contract is Colton Sissons for the next 5 years. Josh Bailey at 3. Yeah. I like his team, Alex.
The RFAs, they're not a team with a deep prospect pool yet. So in 2 years, when they have to re-sign and actually pay maybe Calford or Jake Bean, Cole Lind some money, they'll have lost a few of these contracts to make some space so that they can sign a guy right now in the free agency for like big money, 8 or 9 million, for a top 2D or a top 3, kind of first line kind of guy. Like they can go out there and sign that kind of money and still work around the cap.
Mm-hmm.
This leaves you with enough space.
Yeah, and that's it. That's our team. Let us know down below who you have, what your teams look like. I'm really excited for the live stream on Wednesday we'll be doing on the channel. We'll be streaming the draft, so join us then. Exciting. It's good. I like watching the Vegas one, and there's going to be a lot of movement, guys. Like a lot of these, we have 11 defensemen. Like all 11 of these guys, maybe except William Borgen, could play in the NHL next year, right? There's going to be a whole lot of movement when you look at the Vegas roster from their expansion draft roster. A lot of those guys didn't even make it to the beginning of the season. They immediately shipped him out, picks and swapped and did salary, and like they had all these assets all of a sudden that they needed to trade. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm excited. I'm sure you're excited, Alex.
I am excited.
And yeah, that's it for us. Thank you guys so much for
We're already
watching.
big fans, right? I hope everybody else is a big fan too. Their
Yeah.
jerseys in the mail.
Yep. Seattle Kraken jerseys are in the mail. Um,
I already have my Tarasenko jersey coming in, so I don't know about you guys.
I'm getting a Seattle Price jersey for sure.
Yeah.
Um, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like on the like button down below and comment, like I said, who you think, and subscribe to the channel. We'll be doing, we're real busy this week with a lot of draft stuff, entry and expansion and all sorts of stuff. So subscribe to the channel. We're doing hockey stuff. Until next time, peace.